Hello everyone, this is Yogesh. Welcome to another video. A lot of time I come across people who really struggle with the key concepts of IP addresses, subnets, what is classless IP address, what is classful IP address, how do I do subnetting. I'm seeing some IP address, I'm not able to understand what information I get from that by looking at that IP address. If you are also one of them, if you also face all those challenges by looking at IP address, you are not able to understand the information it is trying to tell you, this video is for you. So keep watching till the end, you will be definitely benefited. Without wasting any further time, let us get started. We are going to see what is the typical question that you see in either in your question paper or in your work job. The question would be like, this is the IP address given to you, and you are supposed to find out here what is the class of this IP address, what is the net ID, what is the host ID, and sometimes even whether this IP address is subnetted or not, right? At first this might sound all heavy, this question will sound very heavy, but what we are going to do is we are going to understand some basics, which is we are going to look at what are the types of IP addresses, what are the various classes of IP addresses, what is classless IP address, and how do we do subnetting, right? Once these concepts are clear, then you will be able to do this Q&A session, and you will be able to answer the same question in less than 30 seconds. So let's get started with the first concept, which is what are the types of IP addresses. There are several things based on which we can decide what type of IP address it is. First is, what is the assignment method? So when a server is booting up, when a server is started, whether that server is assigned a fixed IP address or a dynamic IP address. So fixed IP address is something which if you assign to a server, it will not be changed. The server will keep that IP address for a very long term. Those type of IP addresses are called as static IP addresses. And there are other category, like when the server is booting up, it will contact another server called as DHCP server. It will request a DHCP server, hey, can you give me an IP address? And DHCP server will dynamically arrange IP address for that guy and provision it. This type of IP address scheme is called as dynamic IP address based on availability. So by default, when you look at IP addresses, they are assigned to servers, and these servers will be by default either public facing, which means on the internet, or in your private network. So my laptop at my home is a private IP address. My laptop A want to contact my laptop B. They both need just private IP address, and they will be able to talk to each other. Whereas if my laptop want to talk to google.com, or if my laptop want to talk to amazon.in, then what I need is amazon.in's public IP address. So there are two types of IP addresses. Public IP address, if your server is on internet, it should have a public IP address. If your server is on local network, a private IP address is sufficient. And next category is whether the IP address is of V1 type or V6 type. Without going into much technical details, let us jump to the next section, because this information is just to make you aware of the types of IP addresses. This is not really useful in the coming slides. What will be useful is whether the IP address is a classful IP address, or is it a classless IP address. When you look at a IP address, the IP address comes in two sets. There will be set number one, which is IP address, and there will be a subnet mask, which will be always written along with the IP address. The subnet mask is what decides which class of IP address it is. So if your subnet mask is 255.0.0.0, then your IP address is class A. Okay. If your subnet mask is 255.255.0.0, it is class B. If it is 255.255.255.0, it is class C. Again, who decided these classes? These are all decided by authority, these INA or some authority, right? These are fixed classes. If your IP address is following this standard, it is of this class, right? It is not very flexible. In a particular class, you will have a fixed number of IP addresses for host and networks. Okay. Similarly, we have a class D and class E. We are not going to discuss them in detail here. They are for multicast and reserved categories, not for our use. Also, we have another category called as classless IP address. So this is class full, right? Class full has a subnet like this. Classless will have the same subnet but written in a different notation. This is called a CIDR notation. Okay, so why is this 8 here? Why, how does this 255 maps to 8? So we will write 255 as 1 1 1 1 4 ones, 1 1 1 1. We have 8 ones. The first one is 2 to the power 0, second one is 2 to the power 1, third one is 2 to the power 2, and likewise. What is 2 to the power 0? 1. 1 multiplied by 1, 1. 2 to the power 2, right? Multiplied by 1, 2. 2 to the power 2, 4. 4 multiplied by 1, 4. This is what has been explained here. This is the first one, this is the second one, this is the third one. You keep doing that. Finally, what you will get? You will get 1 multiplied by 1, 2 multiplied by 1, 4 multiplied by 1, 8, right? So this is 1, 2, 8, sorry, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128. You add all of them, you get final number 255. So this is numeric decimal representation, and this is the count of ones, right? So this decimal has come from these binaries, and this is the count of ones. In classless, we represent the subnet mask in CIDR notification. This is CIDR notation. This is called as CIDR notation, classless interdomain routing. Similarly, this is 8 plus 8, which means 16. This is 8 plus 8 plus 8, which is 24, right? For now, this much of understanding about classless is sufficient. We will learn about this classless in coming slides. What is the basic difference between classful and classless? The basic difference is classful is fixed. You cannot modify. You cannot define how many hosts in one network will be there. It is already written, right? That only in this class you will get only these many hosts in one network. Whereas in classless, you will decide how many hosts will be there in my network. Okay, because classful was fixed, there were some limitations coming in the network designing. People started building classless. Okay, that's the basic difference between these two types of IP addresses. Coming to class A details, it is good to understand these classes in detail. So let us go one by one at each of these classes, right? First class is class A. Class A starts from IP address starts from 1 and goes up to 127. Actually, I have written here 126 for a reason. So for an example, this is a class A IP address. It is starting with 10. 10 comes between 1 and 126. Hence, it is a class A address. Okay, right. Class A address always has a subnet mask of 255.0.0.0, and this can also be represented as /8. We already know that. Good. How do we write this IP address in N and H notation? N is network host, and H is host, right? So the first portion in your IP address, this first octet, right, first bit is network bit, and the remaining 3 are host bits. Okay, this is how class A is written, right? And in this class A, when generally, why would somebody use class A? Class A will be used when you have too many hosts in one network. So let us say you are having a football ground, right? And you have 80,000 people sitting there with 80,000 laptops, right? And you need to assign an IP address to each of them. Then probably you will use class A, because there are so many people to be given IP addresses, right? So we will use class A, which gives a lot of hosts, right? When you have many hosts as a requirement, you will use class A. In class A, there are little bit niche items. I will just explain here. So in class A, there is something called as 127 dot something something something. That complete range is reserved. We cannot use it. That is reserved for local traffic. Okay, and in that range also there is a special case called 127.0.0.1. It is reserved for local host or loopback. So if you want to contact your system yourself, right, if you want to talk to yourself, you will use this type of IP address. Just for a recap once again, the class A range starts from 1 and it goes till 126. 127 we cannot use, 127 is reserved. And if your server is on internet, right, then you will use public IP address, and if your server is on a local network, you will use private IP address. If it is a private IP address, you will use 10 dot range. Okay, otherwise all others like 1 2 3 4 up to 9, they are all public IP addresses. And then again after 10, 11, right, 12 and goes up to 126, they are all public IP addresses. Unless your server is on internet, you will use 10 dot range. If your server is on internet, you will use any of the other range. Okay, I hope this is clear. Let's move on to class B. Class A ended at 127, right? So class B will start at 128. Class B starts at 128, goes till 191. Again, in this, the subnet mask is 125, sorry, 255.255.0.0. This is 8 plus 8. In CIDR notation, we will write this as /16. Okay. There is one more small thing here. We have a host and network notation like this, right? So here the network bits are first 2 octets and the host bits are in last 2 octets. So it is n.n h.h. Okay, which means we have 16 bits for network and 16 bits for host. This kind of IP address, which is class B IP address, is generally used when we need a balance of network and host, right? When we want a bigger network and also a lot of networks, then we will go for a class B type of IP address. In this class B IP address, there are two special things. One is this IP address. This is called as a reserved IP address. This is reserved by APIPA. This is like, your operating system will have its own, assigned IP address. It is reserved. We cannot use it, right? So every system will have this APIPA IP address. And as it was in the case of class A, there was a private range. If you want to host your laptop on internet, you will go for public range. If you want to host your laptop in a local network not accessible from outside, then you are supposed to go with a private range. Similar way, in class B also we have a private range, because suppose my server don't want to be exposed to internet, then I should use this, right, 172.31. then x.y can be anything, 10.5, 5.10, anything, right? Example is this. Again, if you look at this, as soon as you look at the IP address, you should be able to tell this is 172, which means 172 comes in class B range, right? This is class B. What will be the CIDR? CIDR will be this, right? Is it a private or public? Since it is 172.31, it is private. If it was 32, it would be public IP. Okay, hope you are getting it. Let's move on to class C. Class B ended at 191. So class C will start at 192, right? It starts at 192 and it goes on till 223. Okay, if you want to write the subnet mask, it would be 255.255.0, which means that 8 plus 8 plus 8 CIDR notation will become 24. Okay, and in this again we have a private range, because if my server don't want to be on internet, right, then I should give a scope for private range. So I have given 192.168.x.y. x.y can be anything. In this example it is 10.2, right? In this network and host representation, if you want to write it, it will be 3 bits for n and 1 for host. Okay, which means this is very interesting. As soon as you see this IP address, you should be able to tell what is this computer. This computer is .2. Okay, for an example, you just walked into a computer lab, okay, and you ask network administrator, hey, what is your network class? He says my network class is class C. So next question you will ask, is it internet exposed or is it private? And if he says it is private, then in class C private, what is the IP range? This is the IP range, right? Then you look at one computer in the network lab and you point, what is the identification of that computer? Then probably it would be something like .2. What will be the identification of the next computer? Probably .3. Next one .4. How many computers will you have in that lab? It will start from .1, it will go till 255, right? So we'll have 255 or 256 hosts in that lab. So you walked into a computer lab and you looked at 256 computers, they are all on private range, they are belonging to class C. How many computers can be there in class C? Obviously not more than 256. We'll come to that in a bit. Let's go to class D and class E. We're not going to learn much about it. This is used for multicast and this is reserved. Something which is reserved, we don't want to spend our time there. Let's come to the main topic here. If I go back to the agenda, if you remember, we want to answer this question, right? To answer this question, what you should know the types of IP addresses. We know now, right? We know what is private IP address, what is public IP address, what is dynamic, what is static. We now know the classes of IP address. A, B, C are the main classes we have to remember, right? Now we are jumping into the third portion, which will require little bit of attention, and I hope you are following me, right? So this will also be smooth sailing if you keep following. Let's go to this section. All right. We are now going to learn that this subnet, right? This is basically a subnet mask. I want to divide this into smaller networks. Okay. First of all, if I keep this net as a network, if I walk into a computer lab and if the network administrator tells me that my subnet mask is 255.255.255.0, or if he is a smart guy, he will say /24, right? CIDR notation. If he says my network is /24, what do you understand from it? I understand from it that this computer lab, this computer room is having 256 computers only, not more than that. Why is it so? Because if you start from this 0, up to how long you can go? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, next row, right? 10 computers in one row, 10 computers in another row. How long will you go? You will go up to 256 only, right? What is this 256? 256 is all ones. We have already seen it in previous slide, right? 2 to the power 0, 2 to the power 1. If you add all of them, it becomes 255. Ultimately, you have to remember one concept, right? In class C network with this subnet mask, how many computers can you get? You get 256 computers, right? Out of that, there are two reserved. We will not talk about it. For simplicity, we will just write 256 here. If you want little bit complexity, there is one reserved for network, there is one reserved for broadcast. We will come to it later. For now, you walked into a computer lab, you ask the network admin, is it a type C, is it a class C IP, class C network, class C private network? He says yes. As soon as he says yes, what did you derive out of it? That this lab will not have more than 256 computers. Okay. Now, what is the use of 256 computers? Probably not there, right? Probably the lab administrator need only 10 computers there, right? What about all other IP addresses? They are getting wasted, right? So there is a need to divide this lab into smaller network, right? To divide it into smaller network, what we are going to do? We are going to shift bits. It is little technical, but to keep it simple, instead of getting 256 hosts in one room, I want only 128 hosts now. So where will the remaining go? They will not be assigned, right? So for that, what will I do? I will change this /24 to /25. How do I do that? I keep one here, this one. What is this one? This is 2 to the power 7. What is 2 to the power 7? 128. I keep doing that. So first requirement is big hall, 256 computers. No, that's not my requirement. My requirement is only 128 hosts. No, that's not my requirement now. It is 64 hosts only, or maybe 32 hosts only. So if someone need a computer lab with 32 computers, what should be the subnet mask? The optimal subnet mask is going to be this, right? Not this. That's what I was saying when we were studying classes. Class C, fixed class, you cannot control how many computers will come in your network, right? It is already written, you cannot modify it. Class C will have 256 computers, but whether I need that 256 or not is my choice, right? If I want to do network according to my choice, then I will have to come to something called as classless IP address, and I have to do something called as subnetting. That's what we are doing here. What we are doing here is 256 host network we are dividing into a smaller network of 30 hosts. How we are doing it? We are modifying the subnet mask. Instead of using 0, we are using 254. When we do that in CIDR notation, it is written as 27. Why 27? Okay, why 25? Because we shifted one bit, right? Why 26? Because here there are two ones. So the number of ones is actually this CIDR notation, right? So there were 8 ones here. This is 8 plus 8 plus 8. Then it became 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 1, which is 25. Then 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 2, which is 26. Like that, plus 3 plus 4 plus 5. And you keep doing that, you will ultimately reach 8 again. And how many hosts will you be able to host there? 0. So these are not practical networks. They are, just for theoretical purpose. They are not usable. Usable network starts from /30. In /30, written here that we will be able to get 4 hosts, but out of these 4, 2 are always reserved. So you will actually get only 2 usable IP addresses. Suppose you are building a network for only 2 people. One is server, one is client. This is the best network for you to build. No IP address wastage. Nobody can come in your network because there is no IP address available, right? So you can achieve your requirement based network designing by using subnetting and classless IP address. This portion is subnetting and this portion is classless CIDR notation. That's all. It's very simple. Let's go to problem statement, right? I joined a company. Okay, one network engineer came. He said, okay boss, you are supposed to use this IP address range. What is this IP address range? Okay, this is starting from 192 and 168. 192 comes in what range? It comes in class C, right? And 192 168 is private IP address in class C, and it is having a CIDR notation of /24, which means again class C, and it is fixed, right? Fixed for how many hosts? It will have 254 hosts, right, excluding the 2 reserved hosts. So what that network admin has given you is, he has given you one network where you can keep 254 computers. But life is not that simple, no? Life is having HR, finance and sales departments. If you give sales department guy in the same, if you put that guy in the same network as finance or same network as HR, this guy will do a lot of things on their computers, probably, if he is smart enough, right? Why to give that chance? I want to isolate them. I don't want sales to have access to finance and HR computers. I want to put them in smaller networks, separate networks. They will be sitting in one room only, but their network will be separate. Okay, this is subnetting. This is why we need, why do we need subnetting in first place? This is the reason. Okay, we want to create smaller networks and segregate the departments. Let us see how it is done. Okay, because I was given this, right, and I wanted to divide it into 3 networks, right? Out of all this subnetting which we did in the previous slide, which one will suit me? I have to decide as a network admin. So will this suit me? One subnet? No. Will this suit me? 2 subnets? No. Right? Will this suit me? Yes. Because it has 4, I will take 3 out of it and I will leave 1 unused. Okay. If I use this in each network, I will get 64 hosts. So as long as my sales department, my HR department and my finance department are not having more than 64 people, I am fine with it, right? I will give 64 computers to HR, 64 to sales and 64 to finance, right? And probably in future, if one more department comes, I can give 64 to them also, because I have how many networks here? 4. For now I am going to use 3. So out of this, what is the conclusion? I am going to use /26 instead of /24. That's the conclusion. We are going to use CIDR classless IP address, and we are going to use subnetting in our network. Let's use it. What will happen? We will get subnet number 1 for HR. Okay, and we are going to use CIDR /26. So first write /26 here. What is going to be the IP address? IP address starts from here. So just write your starting IP address. That's all. Simple. You got your first network ready. In the first network, first computer to last computer, what are the IP addresses? Okay, it will be ideally starting from 0 and it will go till 63, right? Because you are going to have how many IP addresses in each network? 64, right? In this 64, two are not usable by us, this one and this one. As I was telling you, this is network address and this is broadcast address. We don't use it. So what are the usable IP addresses that we got? Usable is only 62. What are those? It starts from 0.1 to 0.62. Alright, so this is our HR network now. In HR network, IP addresses are from 1 to 62. Okay, after this, the HR network ends at 63, right? So where will the next department start? Next department will start at 64. What will be the CIDR? CIDR remains unchanged, 26 to 26, right? No change here. Just we have to remember, wherever the previous network is stopping, the next network will start from the next IP address, right? So now it starts from 64. If it is starting from 64, I cannot use 64 because it is network IP, and I cannot use the last one also because it is broadcast IP. So exclude two IP addresses, and the range you will get is from 65 till 126 is my usable range. 62 IP addresses. Okay, similarly, now let us move on to the next department. Next department is sales, right? For sales, I will start from next of 127. What is next of 127? 128. CIDR, no change. So 128 is not usable, 191 is not usable. What is usable? From 129 to 190. That's my third network. And I have one more network which is right now, not used, but I can use in future. I can keep another 62 computers here in future, right? So again, if you are feeling that why I am wasting one network, don't feel about it. It's a separate network. If you have wasted IP addresses in your current network, all your broadcast, multicast, they will be heavy, right? But you have a shorter network, right? These broadcast, multicast will be lightweight, right? They will be performing faster. Your network will not be bulky. So as long as you have separated out this complete chunk out of your network, you are good. You have actually done a good networking, right? Since this concept is now clear, we will just quickly see how we can divide the network, same network. If somebody says divide the same network into 5 networks. So last time we did 3 networks. For 3 we opted for 4, right? But in this case we have 5. So for 5 we have to obviously jump to this guy, 8. If we want to use 8, then we have to use CIDR notation /27. If we are using /27, we will get maximum 32 computers in one network, right? So finance guy 32, HR guy 32, likewise, right? And if what will be the networks, we will quickly divide and see, right? It will start from 0. How many computers in each network? 32, right here 32. What will be the next? 64. What will be next? Keep adding 32, you will get all your subnets. What is your CIDR? 27, right? Then after that everything is done, what is the understanding you got? We are going to have 30 usable hosts in each of them. Out of these 8 subnets from 1 to 8, you are free to choose 5 according to your choice, right? Keep 3 in reserve, you can use them later. Okay, so this is the core concept of classless IP address and subnetting. By using this /27, we have moved away from the fixed and rigid system of /24. /24 256 hosts, /24 256 hosts. You will be wasting a lot of IP addresses. By using /27, I have reduced that 256 into 32 by using /27. Okay, this is classless and subnetting. Now that this concept is also clear, we can look at any IP address and we can derive a lot of information from just by looking at the IP address. So let us look at this one. This is 200 dot. So 200 comes in which range? Class A, B, C, D, which one? It is obviously class C because it is more than 192, right? Is it a private IP address or a public IP address? So it is not 192.168, right? Only 192.168 is private in class C. All others are public. So it is a class C IP address of which type? Private type, right? This is a private type. Okay, one thing we have understood, class and the type. What is the CIDR notation? /24. Since it is /24, is it subnetted? No, this is the same rigid one, right? Class C. It is not 25. If it is 25, it is subnetted. If it is 23, it is subnetted. If it is 24, it is not subnetted, right? As long as 8, 16 and 24 are there, they are not subnetted. Okay, I hope this is clear. Now Yeah, what is net ID and what is host ID? So if you remember, how do we write class C? We write N, 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 and then we write H here, right? So this is your network ID and this is your host ID. You walked into the room, you pointed out at the computer, that computer turned out to be 2. This is the host identification, right? You pointed out at another computer, that computer is 3. Host identification. All right. So if this is clear, you will be able to answer these questions in less than 30 seconds. That was my challenge. Let us see. Let us take the first IP address 195.168.255.0 and some subnet mask. Okay, let's answer. It is 195, so obviously it is class C. It is 195, not 192.168, right? 192.168 is private, so it is public, right? Then this is the class C subnet, right? /24. It is not subnetted. Obviously, it is not 25 or 23. It is not subnetted. What are the network bits? This is the network ID, right? What is host ID? This is host ID. Done in less than 30 seconds. Let's take next example. 192.168. Oh, this is our favorite. 192.168 is what? Private IP address in which range? Class C. Okay, subnet is /24, right? Not changed, so it is not subnetted. Network bits, first 3 are network bits and remaining 1 is host bit. Also done, right? Next question. 128.8. okay, 128 comes in B class, right? In B class it is not 172.31, right? So it is not a it is not a private IP address, it is obviously a public IP address in B, right? In B, how do you split it? You have N, N, in H, H, right? So what is the net ID? Net ID is first 2, and what is the host ID? Host ID is remaining 2. Is it subnetted? Are you seeing anything uh, here? No, right? This is 8 plus 8. 8 plus 8 is 16. It is not subnetted. So this is also done in less than 30 seconds. So if you have understood the 3 basics, right? What are the types of IP address? What are the classes of IP address, and how is classless and subnetting is done, right? You will be easily able to answer these type of questions. I hope this video was helpful to you, and keep watching for this space for more upcoming helpful videos. Thank you.